In 1985, a hunter in New Hampshire found a 55-gallon steel drum in the woods near Bear Brook State Park, containing the remains of an adult woman and a young girl. 15 years later, an investigator returned to that same spot and found a second barrel just 100 yards away, holding two more children.
Wait, so the police missed a second barrel for 15 years? That's terrifying. Who were they?
That's the thing, for over 30 years nobody knew. They were just the Allenstown Four, a mystery that seemed impossible to solve until a new kind of science literally reached back through time to unmask a killer with a dozen different names.
A man of 1,000 faces versus DNA detectives. I'm in.
To understand how this happened, we have to look at the world of Terry Peter Rasmussen. He was born in 1943, but by the late 70s, he had completely abandoned his real life and his actual family to become a ghost.
So he wasn't just a killer, he was a professional identity thief?
Exactly. In New Hampshire, he called himself Bob Evans. He worked as an electrician at a campground, but his real hobby was inserting himself into the lives of vulnerable single mothers.
And the world back then let him get away with it. No internet, no linked databases. If you moved one town over, you were a new person.
He banked on that. In 1978, he met a woman named Marlice Honeychurch in California. After a Thanksgiving argument with her family, Marlice packed up her two young daughters, Marie and Sarah, and left with this Bob Evans.
And she thought she was starting a new life, but she was actually walking into a nightmare.
They vanished. No one in their family ever saw them again. Rasmussen moved them across the country to New Hampshire, and by the early 80s, all three were dead, hidden in those industrial barrels along with a fourth child, Rasmussen's own biological daughter.
Okay, let's get into the investigation. How do you find a killer when you don't even know who the victims are?
For decades, you don't. The first barrel in 1985 led to a complete dead end. When investigator John Cody found the second barrel in 2000, it shocked the community, but the technology still wasn't there.
So these girls just sat in a lab as Jane does for 30 years?
Mostly yes, but then came the mid-2010s and a massive breakthrough called forensic genetic genealogy. This is the same stuff people use to find their long-lost Irish cousins on GEDmatch, but the police started using it to build family trees for unidentified remains.
They basically used the killer's own family tree to hunt him down?
Indirectly, yes. They took DNA from the fourth victim, the middle child, and realized she was the biological daughter of the man known as Bob Evans. But they also found that Bob Evans wasn't Bob Evans.
Let me guess. The fingerprints from an old 1980 check fraud arrest matched a guy in California?
Spot on. In 2002, a man named Larry Vanner was arrested in California for murdering his common-law wife. He died in prison in 2010. Through DNA and fingerprints, investigators proved that Bob Evans, Larry Vanner, and Terry Rasmussen were all the same person.
So the killer was already dead by the time they figured out who he was. But what about the victims in the barrels?
In 2019, the genealogy worked again. They identified Marlice Honeychurch and her two daughters, Marie and Sarah. After 40 years, their names were finally restored.
That leaves one person left. What about the daughter of the killer himself?
She is the final ghost. We know she is Rasmussen's child, but we don't know her name or who her mother was. Investigators believe her mother was yet another victim of Rasmussen who has never been found.
This case feels like it changed everything for how police handle cold cases.
It absolutely did. Bear Brook, along with the Golden State Killer case, proved that forensic genealogy is the most powerful tool in the history of criminology. It turned every public DNA database into a potential witness.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword, though, right? My DNA helping the cops catch my crazy great-uncle?
It sparked a massive debate about privacy, but for the families of the missing, it's a miracle. Marlice Honeychurch's family finally knows where she is after 40 years of wondering why she never called home after that Thanksgiving dinner.
And it also warns us about the chameleons, like Rasmussen. Men who hide in plain sight by preying on people who are looking for a fresh start.
He lived under at least 5 different names that we know of. Police are still looking into other unsolved murders across Arizona, Texas, and California to see if his trail of barrels goes even further.
What's the one thing to remember about the Bear Brook murders?
It's the case that proved science can give a name back to the nameless, even 3 decades after a killer tried to erase them from history.
That's Wikipedia. Every story, on demand. Search your next topic at wikipedia.ai.